Okay, so today's video is on how to sample for gold. We're going to be doing some hard rock mining and going to a bunch of showings and doing some sampling. So what you have here is you got a showing. There's a mineralized vein right here. You can see the heavily oxidized rock here with your sulfides. You can see the vein right there and all in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull a sample off here. What we would generally do is you sample from your host rock all the way to the other side of your vein. That way you get a picture of the entire vein and what you're pulling out. So generally what we do is we pull off our sample. We would put it in a bag and label it. We would put the GPS coordinates on, and then strike and dip of the vein, as well as the location and type of sample, whether it's a stream sediment sample, whether you're taking a chip sample or a grab sample. So that's what we would do. So let's dive into this video and do some sampling. Okay, so we've gotten our first sample. We've got I'd say about 300-400 grams. So we're going to put it in our bag. We got Ziploc bags here, and they're pretty heavy duty. If anyone wants to find good bags, eBay is the place to look. We haven't found anything that's better. So we collect our sample, put it in the bag. We want to measure the strike and dip of the vein. The other thing we want to do is to measure the thickness. So I would say an average for this vein would be close to about 5 centimeters. Gets a little bigger down here. So we're going to write that on our sample bag. We're going to put our GPS coordinates and then the strike and dip of the vein, and yeah. Okay, so we're going to be sampling several different locations. This property has more than one claim cell on it. It's got about 6. So what we generally do is we have our bags here. We put our Ziploc sample bags inside here based on location. So if we're hopping from one claim cell to the other, then we'll put them in here and we'll label it by location. So that's the end of the first sampling. Let's head on to the next place. Okay, so here's our second sample location. We're pulling off another vein here, and you got a schistose rock with some sulfides that's heavily oxidized, and you have a solid mineral vein. I would say it's about 5 centimeters wide, and we've found it for about 1.5 meters long. So we're going to take the sample, and this is what we generally do. We look for this strike, dip. We want the GPS coordinates, rock type, the width and length of the sample was done over, and then you have your sample ID. And then you're set to go and put it in your bigger bags where your location is. Alright, let's head on to the next place to sample. Okay, we're here at our third location. You can see the oxidization on this. There's mineralization on these samples. Looks like chalcopyrite and pyrite. This is a schistose rock, and you can see the road. So this is a zone about I'd say 15 meters wide where there's mineralized rock, and it seems to be coming from over here. There's no exposed bedrock, but this piece right here, which does have a little bit of mineralization on it, so we'd have to remove all this to get access to the bedrock. So what we're going to do is we're going to just take a couple grab samples from here and see if there's anything worthwhile in that, and if there is, we might pursue this a bit farther. Okay, so that's the end of the showing. We're going to head on to the next one. so we're at our next sample location. We're going to be sampling a old dump from an old mine. It's a small mine that pulled out gold, silver, copper, and zinc, and there was a bit of lead as well. So you can see there's some chalcopyrite on there. What we're going to do is we're just going to take a bunch of samples at random, grab samples, and send it all in as one analysis and see what we get out of that. And then we're going to hand pick a few as well. So there's another sample here that's got quite a bit of malachite staining on that, so maybe we'll check that one out, and we'll see what else we can find here. Okay, so we found a bunch of samples. Here's another one that we found. It's got decent looking minerals in there. Looks to be like it's chalcopyrite. So that's the end of sampling for this area. We've gotten about 10 kilograms of samples from here in different parts of this old dump. And fortunately it's collapsed, so we can't go in there take a look tonight, but we'll dig it out in another video. And we'll head on to the next location now. Okay, just one more pointer I thought I'd point out before we head to the next location. If you guys are sampling at an old dump near a mine, generally the higher grade material is left by the entrance of your adit, your shaft, whatever, and your lower grade materials thrown down farther. So that's the best place to start looking, is by the mouth of your adit or shaft. Let's go to the next location now. Okay, so we just removed a sample from another location. We came across an outcrop that's recently been ripped to shreds by a logging company for the use of their road buildings. So we found a couple samples of quartz that's got some pyrrhotite and pyrite, and there was some copper staining on it as well. So this is another thing you can do when you're sampling. If there's no, if you don't have a GPS, or if you have a GPS but your GPS isn't too accurate, you can get a peg like this, hammer it with tape there, and then hopefully next time when you come back and trying to find your location, your peg is still there. Alright, let's head to the next location. Okay, so we're done sampling at this property. We've got about 26 samples. We're going to be heading to the next one, which has a couple showings on it. We're going to probably remove about 5 samples. So all these samples, what we generally do is we send them in for analysis with a lab. They're the best at doing it. They know what they're doing, and they usually give you the best results. A lot of people like to just pan their samples out and just go for the gold, but we like to go for the whole picture and see what everything is in there. We generally do an ICP analysis. There's a whole bunch of different ways you can do an ICP analysis, and your best way is to contact your mineral assay office, and they'll guide you through which way to do your sampling and how it's processed, and they'll give you the best results that way. So we're just going to head to the next property now. This one's not as big. We just have schistose rock here with quartz feldspar and quartzite, and you have mineralization occurring throughout in small veins, and then as disseminations you can see just tiny little stringers there. So we're just going to resample this one more time and see what we can get out of this. So again, it's just a small showing, and we just don't want to write it off before we take a better look. Okay, so this is the last showing we're going to sample. We have a vein here of sulfides. It's about 1/2 meter wide, and you can see that it's pretty much solid mineral. We have sampled this before, but we're going to resample it and get the whole picture of the vein, as well as we're going to take a sample of this host rock here. So you can see the sulfides and the sulfur staining right there and your oxidization. And we'll take a sample and go from there. So this exposure is on an outcrop about 25-30 meters wide, and there's several other smaller veins which we're going to sample and get the results from those as well. So you can see your host rock there's also some mineral there that's found as disseminations. Anyway, that's all for now. We'll head back to the shop and take a look at the samples.